Welcome to Sex with Rebecca, a show geared towards relationships and sexuality that'll help you enjoy your relationships more than you ever thought possible. So send us your difficult questions and we'll bring you expert answers unlike anywhere else. On tonight's show, we'll be discussing how to reinvigorate your bedroom skills, answer an email from a man hoping to indulge his fetish behind his wife's back, and giving you some hot ideas for the weekend of sexperimentation. Let's begin with a discussion on reinvigorating your sex life with our special guest, sex educator and registered psychotherapist, Tara McKee. Welcome, Tara. I'm so excited we're finally doing this.
Yes, me too.
We've been trying to do this, and here you are.
Yes, finally.
Tara, when it comes to what we want in the bedroom, somehow we become total strangers. We're too afraid to give feedback, or for that matter, ask for what we want for fear of hurting someone's ego. So I'm beyond excited that we're going to be putting some hot ideas out there to act as a refresher course for bedroom skills. So why don't you start us off by telling us about the most common areas where people aren't getting what they want and why?
I think a lot of people are really just generally a little afraid, and afraid to say what they want, afraid to hurt their partner's feelings, maybe afraid of their partner's response, and that is often coming from both partners, or however many partners may be present at the time, and not sure what someone else is going to think. So how to start bringing that up so that it's you know, maybe everyone needs a little humility around it, so that maybe everyone can start bringing their desires forward.
And you know, we're about to engage in such an intimate act, so it always, I'm sure you find this in your practice as well, that when people say, I can't talk about it, I'm too shy, I'm too scared, and you're thinking you're just about to engage in something so intimate, so why not have that intimate conversation? So I'm really excited doing this. Oral sex, let's get right into it. It's very important to most, and it's scary for others. So why don't we discuss that next?
Okay. How about we start with cunnilingus, or oral sex on women? I often find that both parties, but often women will have a harder time receiving, if we're talking about a heterosexual dynamic. Like a little bit more of a harder time receiving pleasure, and maybe challenges with allowing that, even if their partner's really enthusiastic. And the thing for partners to also remember is it's about your partner's pleasure, not about you getting to a goal. It doesn't have to be about an orgasm. So what are you going to do to be present with the pleasure you're giving someone, and how to be present with the pleasure you're receiving as the receptive person?
I'm so glad you said that it's not goal-oriented. And for women, it can be anything from letting go of control to some women just worrying about how do I look, how do I smell, even though it's all natural and it's all beautiful. But as women, we kind of can get caught up in that. So how about let's get into some tips on giving head?
I think too, for if women are giving head to men, about how to make it something that she's feeling okay about. And maybe that needs to be a little discussed, but there's some really great workshops people can take on that topic as well, to sort of feel more empowered, that it's really something you're providing for your partner, and you're giving them a lot of effort, and you're giving them something of yourself. And for a person receiving, again, letting this person do it in a way that's comfortable for them. And we kind of go to maybe some other cultural norms and some videos of things in porn and all of that, and real life isn't porn. So letting real life be what it is and how it's different. And so sometimes when people may be inundated with other ideas or other images, they kind of let that take over with all different types of sex, instead of recognizing what is going on in between the two people that are actually there.
That's really, really important, because especially nowadays, some people, they use porn as a sex education, whereas it isn't that. I know you've got all sorts of amazing ideas, and we're going to come back to more of that real quick. If you just want to leave us with a hint, a tip for partners, how can they ask for what they want?
Yeah. Well, I think asking for what you want, maybe giving a little direction of that feels really good, please do this, please try that. And maybe also outside the bedroom, maybe before you're gonna have sex, maybe at dinner, of like, hey, I was reading this thing, or I saw this show, and they were talking about sex, and I was wondering if, you know, maybe we could learn to talk better. So using a jumping off point is often helpful, whether that's a TV show, a book, a video someone's seen.
Some segue
into that, because sometimes we're just really nervous to sort of say, I have something to say. And instead of, well, I got this idea somewhere else, it kind of leads that, and hopefully your partner's responsive, and remembering that partners need to also be responsive to what someone's trying to say.
And they're not saying, you want me to do what and where did you get that idea? So
Yeah.
the segues are always nice. But what I just heard you say is it's about asking, and it's about asking nicely. It's not about saying you're doing something wrong, but it's
Right.
about this is what I would like to try. And something that I want to end with there is that it's about an addition. It's not necessarily that what you're doing isn't good enough.
Right.
This is something where you're adding to what's already going on. Because sometimes people say, you know, we want to add toys or we want to ask for stuff. Will my partner think that what they're doing isn't good enough?
Right.
Now, if that isn't a great start to revving up your engines, not sure what else can be. Still ahead, a lot more fun tips, some stuff on fetishes, and of course, the elusive G-spot. So keep it locked right here. Welcome back to Sex with Rebecca, geared towards making your relationships more robust than you ever thought possible. So send us your questions and we'd love to bring you expert advice. Today's question is from Clint. I'm a 42-year-old happily married man with no serious issues in my marriage. We were childhood sweethearts. I never had to deal with any baggage from previous relationships. The only downside, we never got to experience different things sexually, even though I would have liked to. But it was never really a big deal until a few weeks ago. I was in a serious car crash, almost didn't make it, so when I regained consciousness, I started to look at my life in a whole different way, ruminating over unfulfilled dreams, including sexual ones. Now I keep having these wild fantasies with a strong desire to try out BDSM. But if I act on any of it, it'll have to be on my own, since my wife would never go for something like that. Of course, the problem with that is jeopardizing my marriage, either by her finding out or me going crazy once I open up Pandora's box, particularly since it's become a bit of an obsession with me. Could it be that it's just the forbidden fruit thing that'll go away once the mystique is gone? Anyways, I was hoping that you could help me gain a better understanding. Signed, Clint. Oh, Clint, so much going on with you. First, you have a close call with your life, and now you're worried about messing up and having a close call with your wife. And rightfully so. We all have fantasies. Nothing really wrong with that. Plus, we can't control them anyways. But what we can control is what we do with them. Crossing any lines is a choice, which comes with responsibility. Once you try it, you may well realize that you want a lot more of it and may not want to stop. And that will definitely hurt your marriage, whether or not your wife finds out. We only have so much emotional energy and excitement, ditto for brain space. So if we need to create space and time for something else has got to give. This is why the more someone attaches to a person that they're having an affair with, the lesser attached they feel to their spouse. The wiring in the brain starts to change based on what we're most invested in and what's giving us the biggest rush, thereby changing our reward and motivational circuitry. And speaking of the brain, let's not rule out another very real possibility. Brain injury in the prefrontal cortex, responsible for impulse control, especially around sexual behavior. Since the brain is soft like jello, any severe trauma can cause behavior-altering changes. So if it's a brain injury issue, indulging urges in response to it would be the equivalent of trying to address a hardware problem in your computer with software. Not very helpful, is it? But if this truly is an issue of missed opportunities, before you do anything, I want you to play it out in your head, how the scenario and its aftermath will go down in reality, complete with everything that could go wrong, since fantasies rarely account for that part. Once you take a peek into your future, so to speak, and get a sense of how much a thrill could cost you, you'd be in a better position to decide whether or not you still feel that it's worth it. Furthermore, I wouldn't rule out having a chat with your wife. Tell her how the close call made you want to try out some of your unfulfilled desires, and how you really hope that she'd be willing to consider indulging some of those wishes. Because while she might struggle with your fetishes, she'll be downright devastated by your secrecy. Finally, might I suggest that you start off by focusing on fulfilling some of your other missed opportunities that are not likely to hurt anyone. I'm not treating this as a moral issue. I'm speaking from years of experience in dealing with the aftermath of such things. That said, I do applaud you for writing in, because it shows me that you are putting some serious thought into this and the repercussions. Good luck to you. To our audience, if you have any questions of your own, do write us. We love your involvement. Speaking of which, if you enjoy the show, we'd really like for you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If we have enough people connecting with us there, we'll be uploading additional stuff that is too hot to be aired on TV. So do help us make that happen. Still ahead, our discussion on revving up your sex life continues, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Sex with Rebecca, a show where we bring you expert advice on important matters to help your relationships be more intimate, exciting, and emotionally fulfilling. We've been talking about revving up your bedroom skills with sex educator and registered psychotherapist, Tara McKee. Tara, what are some of the cravings that you hear about in your practice?
The cravings, I'd say, to really get the sex people are wanting and how to talk, how to talk to partners about that. And the cravings might be about, I want my partner to be more attuned. I want them to take more time. I want better intimacy. And it's hard because a lot of people are also engaging in casual sex in some of the scenarios I'm talking about. So how to get intimacy while being casual so the emotionality isn't quite as intimate as the sexual or physical pieces. So how to manage all of those things intertwined.
That's really interesting because you're right. There can be casual sex, there can be one-night stands, and there's a lot of stuff like Tinder sex and all that, and even F-buddies and whatnot. But if you're still craving intimacy, it's a critical part of it. So how does one kind of talk about that?
Yeah, it's challenging. It's really challenging about how to bring yourself forward, but not overly so. Sometimes people find it's actually easier to be intimate when it's casual because you don't have a lot of expectation or commitment or risk with that person.
And you don't worry about what they think.
Exactly. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out and you move on. With longer term partners, sometimes there's more risk or someone you're really interested in, how to keep that going and as you're building a relationship, and maybe a little more vulnerability of if they know the real me, what will happen, or if I'm really this person. So I really encourage people to sort of come out of the gates with your full self, because if you're not really your full self at the beginning, it's harder to bring that forward later on.
Totally.
Gets to the issue of like faking orgasms or pretending everything's
Heaven
working.
forbid.
I know, because once you get stuck in that place, it's really hard to come out because usually partners are upset that it wasn't true in the first place and they're disappointed. So trying to bring that forward and that's sort of I think a human challenge a lot of people have of being yourself with someone else, because there's a risk. There's a risk they're going to love it or they might not. And that helps us weed through people, but also through sex, how to bring yourself forward, because what you have to offer might be someone else's thing. Yeah. And that might be amazing.
And so, not to be scared.
Yeah, exactly.
But I really like this, that out of the gate, you share what you want, because it is harder to introduce it later on.
That's true.
And some people, they'll say, okay, there was a bait and switch.
Yes.
But this way, no need to fake those orgasms. And you can navigate, you can negotiate, or maybe you'll find out that you're completely incompatible and better to know at get-go than later on when people start to complain and resent each other. I don't know about you, Tara, but I always get a lot of questions about the elusive G-spot. So can you please talk about that next, along with maybe rubbing it the right way?
Yeah, sure. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. I've been teaching G-spot stuff for a long time now.
You've done workshops on
I do a lot of workshops over the last 10, 15 years about teaching people about where it is and how we often miss it. I think that's the biggest thing, is people are digging around, looking for the treasure, as I say, they're looking for a treasure at the end of the tunnel, and it's not actually back there.
Okay,
so we're talking about, so I have this handy vulva puppet. Some people may have seen this before. And we have just the general anatomy here. But what we're talking about, and these vulva puppets actually have a really not such a deep vagina, which is actually helpful in here. Because what I'm doing when I'm trying to find the G-spot is I always recommend people use fingers first, because they're more sensitive, they're more specific, and more attuned in a lot of ways, and easier to direct. So whether someone's doing this to themselves, themselves or a partner, 1 or 2 fingers with 1 or 2 knuckles. And really that's as far as you need to go in. And just going inside, and then there's this come hither, right? This sort of up and around and coming hither towards the upper wall of the vagina.
So on the tummy side?
On the tummy side, exactly. And there's actually a little bit of texture there. It's kind of ridgy. But most of the time people are going a little too far, maybe the full length of fingers, and they bump into the cervix. And I always say the cervix feels a little bit more like the tip of the nose. It's not cartilage, but it's really dense. So it's more obvious. And if they get that far, usually the person having this done is, something's poking me. So coming back towards the opening. We're talking on the first inch, 2 inches maybe, and then pressing. And starting with a light touch, but then increasing that pressure. Most people like more pressure on this area. So increasing that pressure, in case someone likes it lightly, but moving towards. And what often people find, and this is a little shy for some people, is they feel like they might pee. Right? So they get nervous, but that's actually tuned into something. that probably indicates you're hitting the right spot. So go to the washroom first, so you don't have to worry about that if that's what happens, and then playing around with that.
So you're doing the right thing then.
Exactly, exactly. That gives you a hint. You're on your road to that. And sometimes fluid comes out when you stimulate the G-spot, and that's called female ejaculation, which is totally fine and normal and not pee.
And also, if a female doesn't ejaculate, it doesn't mean that she hasn't had an orgasm.
That's
Great
right.
information, Tara. When we return, we'll be discussing taking ownership of your sexuality and giving and receiving feedback the right way, along with some final hot tips. So don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Sex with Rebecca, a show geared towards making your relationships the best they can be, both in and out of the bedroom. We've been discussing how to become a better lover with sex educator and registered psychotherapist Tara McKee. Part of that means giving and receiving feedback. And we've been talking about that a little bit, but just before break, we were talking about that, you know, just because she doesn't have female ejaculation, it doesn't necessarily mean she hasn't had an orgasm. So can you quickly make a comment on that, and then we'll leave our audience with some tips?
Yes, definitely. Ejaculation and orgasm are two different things for women, and they don't have to happen together. They might or they might not, and a lot of women are going to experience pleasure during sex, and they may not achieve orgasm every time, and that's totally okay if she's okay with that and receiving the pleasure. So staying away from that being goal-oriented piece and just enjoying each other and trying to be present in the pleasure that you're having.
Being present, because then if it's not goal-oriented, that you're just enjoying each sensation as it's coming instead of trying to gear up towards something. And you know, that's what takes the bulk of the time. The orgasm is just a few seconds, and then it's over, it's game over. So can you leave us, our audience, with some tips, like a few bullets on how to, like, pretty much covering what we've talked about, giving feedback, owning your own orgasm, taking responsibility for your orgasm, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes. Well, a few things in line with that is being present with the pleasure you're receiving, and if something's not working, say so. Say, I'd like you to do this, harder, faster, slower, maybe moving somebody's hand, face, body part in the place you want it to go, or moving yourself in that place.
That can be sexy,
Exactly.
like taking someone's hand and rubbing it on yourself.
And be like, oh, do it this way, please, or oh, baby, or whatever it is. And if you're the person doing it and not sure, ask or watch for body language. Start trying to be attuned to the body language. If you're going down on someone and they're moving their hips towards your face, they're probably into it. If they're pulling away, maybe not, right? So really looking at how they're engaging and paying attention, and that way you can find your groove together.
Absolutely. I used to call it the push-pull rule. If they're pushing it into you, they're digging it. If they're pulling away, then maybe something needs to be readjusted.
Exactly.
And it's perfectly okay to say, do you like it like that? Because your partner may be too shy to volunteer the information. So do you like this? Do you like it when I'm gentle? Do you like it feathery? Do you like it a little bit stronger? Do you like my tongue? Do you like my fingers, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, and some people don't know. So then you just try a little at a time and let them respond.
Right.
And just wait. And sometimes it takes people a few tries to get to figure out what they like, because they may not be used to even being attuned to that. So giving them some time, even with G-spots, giving people time. Do you like it? I'm not sure. Okay, well, let's try it and go back to something we know we like, and then back to that. And going back and forth to allow that awakening, that becoming aware as we go through trying new things and trying to invigorate our sex lives.
I know, right? Well, thank you so much. I mean, time just blew by, but you've left our audience with a lot of very important tips on how to communicate, and that's where it starts, how to communicate in the bedroom. And of course, you know, it's good to even have that conversation outside the bedroom, particularly if it's a touchy topic. So thank you, Tara, for offering us some remarkable insights. Still ahead, our final segment with some special ideas for a sex experimentation weekend getaway. So be sure to stick around for that. Welcome back to our final and most delicious segment for the evening, where we give you some tips to try out. My guest tonight is Pam Cameron from Lovecraft. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So tell us, sex experimentation weekend, what would you recommend? Someone comes into Lovecraft, what would you tell couples to do?
Okay, so what I would say is start, you know, sometimes people need ideas. So I often recommend erotic fiction because, you know, sometimes it gives you ideas that you might not have yourself. It kind of gets your motors revved up, and it's a good way to be inspired for the rest of the weekend.
It's like 50 Shades, right?
Exactly, like 50 Shades, yeah. So I also think, you know, some strawberry, some champagne, some chocolate sauce.
Ooh, that looks good.
Yeah, look at it.
So
made in Canada.
Made in
Canadian,
Canada.
yeah, you're supporting local, and it's liquidy.
And so you can sort of paint?
You can paint it on the skin. Do you want me to?
Yeah, sure. Oh, that's cool. And it's
Yeah.
tasty?
It's delicious. And you can
that's
direct,
awesome.
you know, you can put it anywhere you want to be caressed, licked, touched, and kind of direct your partner to exactly where your erogenous zones
So
are.
that's great. You're letting your partner know that this is where I want to be touched or licked or kissed or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
what else do you have?
well, if you want to make sure you can keep your partner in check, you could try this. Yeah, exactly. And it adheres to itself, so it doesn't hurt the skin. Doesn't
Oh,
pull
it
the
didn't
hair.
pull anything away.
No, nothing at all.
Awesome.
And
So
it's
not duct tape.
And no,
playful.
it's nice and black and sexy, and yeah, it's fun.
Looks like PVC.
Yeah, I think it probably is PVC. If you don't want them to know what they're in for, you could
Just do little
try a little
blindfold.
blindfold. Yes, exactly. Little
So
red.
you have no idea what's coming up.
Exactly, but of
Awesome.
course I have to be responsible and suggest that you should always inform, maybe have a safe word, something like that,
Right.
Just in case. But these things that I'm suggesting right now are just kind of fun and playful. So a little
Right.
feather tickler
that's nice.
to play with, yeah, and it's
So
sensuous.
it's not an aggressive touch.
Exactly.
You can go across the nipples for the
anywhere
guys
that's
too,
sensitive.
like areas of the package that usually
Yeah.
get neglected.
Exactly. This would be fun. This is a massage candle. So you light the wick.
Okay.
It's scented. The oil pools on the top, and then you drizzle it on the skin.
Wow.
It's sensuous. But it doesn't burn because it's soy based rather than a paraffin.
So a low melting point.
Low melting point.
Excellent.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have massage oils, which are always fun, flavored, edible, tons of fun.
Absolutely. Oh, these are edible too.
Edible, yeah.
Oh, nice.
'Cause
Nice.
Why not?
Why not?
That's the theme,
That's the whole
strawberries,
thing.
chocolate, edible oils,
What is
why
this
not?
beaver? I mean,
Okay,
just
I
the
love
fact that
this.
you know what's referred
Yeah,
to as the
it's-
beaver. So what's going on over here?
Okay, so the Beaver is a hot new product. They actually crowdfunded to get the funding for this product.
What
It's really
company makes
unique.
it?
It's called Dame. Dame is the
Dame,
company.
okay.
So the idea is that this is worn during intercourse. So these little wings tip up behind the labia.
Okay.
And you can, and then it sort of sits. You have
that's
to take your
awesome.
beaver with you.
You have to take your beaver with you. So this is against the clitoris, and these
That's
kind of
right.
tuck into
Tuck-
the lips.
Yeah, so it's very discreet.
That's
hands-free.
I like
And,
that.
let
So
me-
not only are your hands free to do other things, but the nice thing is sometimes the vibrations, they transfer into the hand,
Yeah.
and it can be really irritating and
A little bit
distracting.
Distracting, yeah. This is very quiet.
Two more things. I
Two
want to
more
make sure we get
things.
everything on air here.
Penile
Ring, okay.
Yep.
And it vibrates?
It vibrates.
So
stretchy.
basically, yeah, you put it around the entire package.
Exactly.
It stimulates it, and it's great for the partner too, especially if it's a female and you intercourse, they get clitoral
and you
stimulation.
can flip it around, and a guy can enjoy it as well.
Awesome.
Of course, he's going to enjoy it anyways.
Yeah, the vibrations. That looks like
now,
a hairbrush.
This
What
looks
is
like
that?
a hairbrush or a microphone.
What is that?
But it's actually a pulsating vibrator. It works with oscillations.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So it has a range of speeds.
Male,
that
female,
anyone
couple,
can
anybody
use it.
can use it.
Nobody would be distracted or intimidated by it.
Thank you so much. What a great, great set of things you brought. And of course, people can come to Lovecraft, and you got
Yep.
tons more
Always,
stuff
yeah.
that you can give them advice on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us,
Thank
Pam.
you.
What a delightful bunch of goodies.
Yeah.
And viewers for joining us tonight. Be sure to tune in again next week. And don't forget to email us your questions and subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch up on missed episodes, watch your favorite shows again, and to get a few extras that are too hot for TV. I'm Rebecca Rosenblat, your host, wishing you happy, healthy, and passionate relationships. Until next time.